Welcome to Everyday English with Annie. Imagine just staring at a blank computer screen for, like, 3 straight hours.
Oh, that is just the worst feeling.
Right. Because you are terrified that your idea is just a cliche. Or, worse, that someone else has already done it way better.
Yeah, that pressure to be totally original is just paralyzing.
It really is. So today, we are going to completely dismantle that fear. And if you are joining this deep dive to practice your English listening skills, well, you are also getting a masterclass today.
Absolutely. A masterclass in how to fundamentally rewire your approach to creativity, your work, and honestly, the media you consume every single day.
Yeah, because we are tackling a rather scandalous question based on our sources. We are asking, are all great ideas actually stolen?
It is such a provocative premise, but I mean, if you have ever felt paralyzed by that pressure to be a completely original genius, it's the absolute best question you could be asking.
Definitely. Kind of changes everything.
It does. And to set the stage for how we dismantle this pressure, let's look at this bombshell quote from our source material. Pablo Picasso, one of the most famous artists of the 20th century, made a very blunt claim.
Oh, I know the one.
Yeah, he just straight up said, art is theft.
Which, that feels incredibly harsh at first glance, doesn't it? I mean, we are taught from childhood that stealing is like the ultimate creative sin.
We are, yeah. But T.S. Eliot added this layer of nuance to it that really opens it up. Eliot claimed that immature poets imitate, but mature poets steal.
Wait, mature poets steal. That's fascinating.
Right. And he went on to explain that bad poets deface what they take. They basically ruin it. But good poets, on the other hand, make it into something better.
Or at least something different, right?
Exactly. They weld their theft into this whole of feeling that is completely unique to them.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the immediate roadblock anyone hits when they want to start a new project, whether that's like writing a proposal, designing a graphic, or even just decorating a living room, is this romanticized view.
Oh, totally. The myth of absolute originality.
Right. We have this culturally ingrained idea that genius is just supposed to strike us like lightning from a clear blue sky, completely unprompted.
Which is just an incredibly damaging myth. I mean, the most liberating realization you can have is that absolutely nothing comes from nowhere.
Nothing at all.
Right. The biological reality of our brains is that every single new idea is simply a mashup. It's literally just a new physical neural connection between two or more previous ideas.
And our sources point out that this isn't even a modern realization, is it?
Not at all. You can trace this concept all the way back to the Bible, actually. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it literally states, there is nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, and the author Jonathan Lithium touched on this too. He noted that when people call a piece of art or a new invention original, well, 9 times out of 10, they just don't know the sources involved.
Exactly. They just haven't seen the references the creator was secretly looking at.
So when a creator hides their sources well enough, society just calls them a genius.
Yeah, it's a great trick. But behind every supposed stroke of isolated genius is this deep, rich history of consumption, observation, and just endless iteration.
I always think of it like cooking. If ideas are essentially like cooking, you don't need to invent a brand new, never-before-seen vegetable to be considered a great chef.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, you just need a new recipe. You take the tomatoes, the garlic, and the basil that everyone else on the planet has access to, but you combine them in a specific ratio.
Yeah, or you cook them using a process that reflects your own personal taste.
Exactly.
Well, the sources offer this biological analogy that maps flawlessly onto your cooking metaphor. Consider human genetics. You have a mother and you have a father.
Right, obviously.
And you possess physical and personality features from both of them, but the sum of you is entirely different from their individual parts. You are basically a biological remix.
Mom plus dad equals you.
Exactly. So just as we all have a familial genealogy, we also have a genealogy of ideas.
Oh, wow, an intellectual family tree.
Yeah, and here's the crucial difference. You do not get to pick your biological parents. But you absolutely get to pick your intellectual parents.
You choose your teachers, the books you read, all of that.
Right, the movies you watch, the music you listen to. You curate the raw materials that will eventually combine in your brain to form your ideas.
That brings up a massive aha moment regarding how we choose those raw materials. I mean, if you are literally a mashup of your influences, you have to be highly protective of what you allow into your brain.
Oh, without a doubt. There's this well-known economic theory stating that a person's income is typically the average of the incomes of their 5 closest friends.
Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah, well, our sources apply that exact same principle to our intellectual income. You are only going to be as good as the media and the people you surround yourself with.
So it's like that computer science saying, right? Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. If you feed a computer bad data, it will give you a bad result. The human mind works the exact same way.
So for you listening, the practical application here is to aggressively curate your influences. You want to operate like a collector, not a hoarder.
I love that distinction. Let's clarify the difference for a moment. A hoarder collects indiscriminately.
Yeah, they just grab whatever's in front of them, terrified of missing out.
Exactly. But a collector is highly selective. They look at 100 items and only keep the one that genuinely resonates with their specific taste.
So if you just passively consume whatever the algorithm decides to feed you on social media, well, your creative output is going to look exactly like everybody else's output.
Yep, it's just going to be generic. You have to actively climb your own family tree of ideas. If you find a thinker, an artist, or a business leader you admire, you study everything about them.
And then you go a step further, right?
Right. You find 3 people that they admired and go down those rabbit holes. You literally trace the lineage of their brilliance.
Okay, I have to stop you there, though, because I can practically hear the counterargument forming in the listener's mind right now.
Oh, what's the pushback?
Well, if I sit down and meticulously study my heroes and try to copy exactly what they do, I would feel like a total fraud. I mean, how is that not just blatant plagiarism?
That is such a fair question.
Right. Like, how do we take this philosophy of stealing and actually apply it without just becoming a cheap knockoff of someone else?
Well, that distinction is really the backbone of this entire concept. Copying as a learning tool is fundamentally different from plagiarism.
Okay, how so?
Plagiarism is taking someone else's finished work and trying to pass it off as your own original creation. It is inherently deceptive. Copying to learn, however, is all about reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering.
Right.
So, like, taking something apart to see how it was built?
Precisely, like a mechanic taking apart a high-performance car engine piece by piece just to understand how the gears fit together. You aren't claiming you built the engine, you know.
Right. You are just studying the mechanics of it.
Exactly. The writer Wilson Misner put it brilliantly. He said, if you copy from one author, it is plagiarism. If you copy from many, it is research.
That makes perfect sense. And the sources actually outline a really clear framework comparing good theft to bad theft that helps clarify this even more.
Yeah, the chart is super helpful.
It is. Like, bad theft degrades the original source, while good theft honors it. Bad theft just skims the surface to steal the superficial style, but good theft studies that underlying structure we just talked about.
And bad theft steals from one single person, which results in a direct ripoff. Good theft steals from dozens or even hundreds of different people.
Which naturally forces those ideas to blend into a remix.
Right. And perhaps the most vital distinction of all bad theft merely imitates, while good theft transforms the material into something with a totally new purpose.
It's crazy because almost every legendary creator started by blatantly imitating their idols before they transformed. Like, the Beatles are a perfect historical example of this.
Oh, yeah. People forget how they started.
Right. They did not start off writing masterpieces like Let It Be. For years, they were essentially just a cover band playing in small clubs, obsessively playing songs by Buddy Holly and Little Richard.
They had to play other people's music to understand the mechanics of songwriting.
Exactly. Before they could figure out their own unique sound.
The sports world offers an equally compelling illustration of this, actually. Think about Kobe Bryant.
Oh, right. Widely considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time.
Exactly. And he openly admitted that every single move he used on the court was stolen. He would watch VHS tapes of his heroes, rewind them endlessly, and just try to replicate their exact footwork.
But the truly fascinating part of the Kobe Bryant story is what happened when he actually tried to perfectly execute those stolen moves.
Right. He realized he couldn't completely pull them off.
Yeah. He did not have the exact same body type or height or muscle structure as the players he was copying.
And that physical limitation is the magic ingredient in all of this. What happens when you try to perfectly copy something but your humanity gets in the way?
You fail.
You fail. And because you fail to imitate perfectly, you are forced to adapt.
So the failure is actually the goal.
In a way, yeah. Yes. The sources point out this fascinating truth about our biology. The human hand is physically incapable of making a perfect replica.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, if you take a piece of paper right now and try to draw a page full of five-pointed stars, none of them will be exactly identical to the others. The neuromechanics of our motor skills, the slight tremors in our muscles, they just guarantee variation.
It is the human error.
Exactly. Our failure to perfectly copy our heroes is precisely where our own unique style is born. That is the actual mechanism of artistic evolution.
You try to copy your idols, you examine the areas where you fall short or deviate, and that gap, that specific flaw, is where your voice lives.
Beautifully said.
That is an incredibly freeing concept. Your literal inability to be someone else is what makes you you. But understanding the mechanics of how to copy is one thing, right?
Sure.
Actually taking that first step, like putting pen to paper or hitting publish on a project, that brings up a massive psychological barrier.
Ah, yes, the dreaded imposter syndrome.
Exactly. And for our English learners who might not know that term, imposter syndrome is that sinking psychological feeling that you are a complete phony.
It's the worst.
It really is. It is the anxiety that you are just winging it, and at any moment, someone is going to tap you on the shoulder, expose you, and say, hey, you don't belong here.
It is a recognized psychological phenomenon, and it is especially rampant among highly educated or creative people.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we have this false assumption that we need to have a fully formed identity, a clear personal brand, and total mastery of a subject before we are legally allowed to start making things.
But the sources completely flip that logic upside down.
Yeah.
There's this great anecdote in there about a 10-year-old kid who went to the movie theater to see Jurassic Park when it first came out.
Oh, such a monumental film for that generation.
Right. And this kid loved the movie so deeply he was desperate for the story to continue. But obviously, the sequel didn't exist yet.
So what did he do?
The minute he got home, he sat down at his old, chunky desktop computer and just typed out his own sequel. He wrote a story where the son of the game warden, the guy who gets eaten by the velociraptors, goes back to the island for revenge.
Wow. He was writing fan fiction before he even knew the term fan fiction existed.
Exactly. Which perfectly illustrates a core rule for overcoming imposter syndrome. Do not write what you know.
Now, that goes against every piece of writing advice ever given. Write what you know is practically a cliche at this point.
I know, right?
And it is advice that frequently leads to terrible, boring work, especially for beginners who just haven't experienced much in life yet.
So what's the alternative?
The far better approach is to write what you like. Write the exact kind of story you enjoy reading. Build the specific product you wish you could buy right now.
Because you cannot sit around waiting until you have a fully formed identity to begin.
Exactly. The reality is you figure out who you are through the act of making things.
The process of creating builds the identity. The identity doesn't come first.
Yep. And this ties into a concept known in sociology and theater as dramaturgy.
Dramaturgy.
Yeah, for our listeners, dramaturgy is a framework that compares everyday social life to a theatrical performance. William Shakespeare summarized it 400 years ago when he wrote, "All the world's a stage."
It sounds a lot like the modern advice to, fake it till you make it.
That is the practical translation for sure. Creative work requires a degree of acting. The sources share this beautiful example involving the musician Patti Smith and the photographer Robert Mapplethorpe.
Oh, I love them.
Yeah. Well, long before they were famous or recognized as geniuses, they moved to New York City and literally dressed up in bohemian, artsy clothing.
Just playing the part.
Exactly. They would go to Washington Square Park and just hang around, actively playing the role of artists.
So they were basically wearing the costumes to trick their own brains into believing the reality.
They dressed for the job they wanted. They pretended to be making something important until they eventually were making something important. The physical environment really matters. Your workspace is your stage, your clothes are your costume, and your tools are your props. You have to grant yourself the permission to step onto the stage and play the part, even if you feel like a total amateur at first.
Well, that brings up a very modern dilemma, I think. If we are supposed to be setting up a physical stage to trick our brains into a creative state, how do we handle the reality of modern work?
That's a great point.
Right. I mean, for most of you listening, your stage is just a glowing rectangular laptop screen that you stare at for 8 or 9 hours a day. And let's be honest, that environment is incredibly draining.
It is draining because it goes completely against our biology. We are physical, kinetic creatures.
Yeah.
Computers are incredibly powerful tools, but they alienate us from the tactile feeling of making something. When everything you do involves just tapping flat plastic keys and clicking a mouse, Your brain loses the spatial memory and kinetic energy associated with deep creative thought.
So what do we do about it? The sources suggest a really brilliant structural fix for this modern problem, right?
Yep. Yes. Keeping two entirely separate desks in your workspace. One is the analog desk and the other is the digital desk.
Okay, break that down for us.
So on the analog desk, the rule is strict. Absolutely no electronics are allowed, no laptops, no tablets, no smartphones.
So what's on it?
It is stocked only with paper, markers, pens, pencils, and maybe some sticky notes. This desk is dedicated entirely to the generation of ideas. It is a physical space where you can make a mess, tear paper up, physically move ideas around with your hands, and actually smell the ink.
Physical motion actually kickstarts the brain into a different gear, doesn't it? If you are sitting perfectly still like a statue, staring at a monitor, your brain just tends to stagnate.
Exactly. Furthermore, generating ideas on a computer is dangerous because of the backspace key.
Oh, the dreaded backspace.
Right. The computer screen brings out the uptight perfectionist in us. We type a sentence, judge it instantly, and delete it before the idea even has a chance to breathe.
Editing while you are trying to create is a guaranteed way to shut down your imagination.
Absolutely. So the workflow becomes you generate your raw, messy ideas on paper at the analog desk. You spread them all out, you find the connections, and only then do you physically move your body over to the digital desk to execute the work.
So the digital desk is where the computer lives. It is just for editing, refining, organizing, and publishing.
Yes. By physically separating these two spaces, you create a boundary between the uninhibited act of creation and the clinical, precise act of editing.
I love that. So what does this all mean for us today? We live in an era where we have the entirety of human knowledge accessible in our pockets at all times.
That's overwhelming.
It is. Logically, having all these options and resources should make us the most creative generation in history.
Yeah.
But in reality, it usually just makes us exhausted.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most counterintuitive principle we need to explore today. Creativity is subtraction.
Creativity is subtraction. I mean, in an age of extreme information abundance, the people who succeed are the ones who figure out what to leave out.
Exactly. We think we want limitless possibilities, but limitless possibilities are actually paralyzing.
Psychologists refer to this as cognitive load, right?
Your brain only has so much working memory available at any given moment. If I ask you to paint a picture, and I tell you that you can use any color ever invented on any size canvas, and you can paint literally any subject in the universe.
Your cognitive load just maxes out.
Completely. The burden of choosing is so high that you will likely freeze and paint nothing at all.
This perfectly sets up my absolute favorite story from our sources today. It involves the famous children's author, Dr. Seuss.
Oh, a true master of subtraction.
He really was. So Dr. Seuss had just written The Cat in the Hat, and he did it using a vocabulary of only 236 different words, which is already a significant constraint.
Yeah, that's really low.
But his editor decided to push him further and made a bet with him. The editor bet Dr. Seuss that he could not write an entire cohesive children's book using a vocabulary of only 50 different words.
A limit of just 50 words to tell a complete story? That's insane.
Exactly 50 words. And the result of that extreme constraint, he wrote Green Eggs and Ham.
Wow.
Yeah. It went on to become one of the best-selling and most beloved children's books of all time.
See, by severely limiting his palette, he completely removed the paralyzing burden of choice. His brain no longer had to search through thousands of words.
Instead, it was forced to find highly inventive, musical ways to combine a tiny handful of options.
The constraint did not limit his creativity. It was the key that unlocked it.
It sounds like a paradox, but limitations actually provide freedom. So if you are feeling stuck on a project right now, do not ask for more time, more money, or better software.
No, you need to impose strict constraints on yourself. Tell yourself you have to write the first draft of your song on your 20-minute lunch break.
Paint your canvas using only shades of blue.
Or try to launch a small business idea with absolutely zero startup capital. You have to embrace whatever limitations you currently have and use them as fuel to keep moving.
What makes your work interesting isn't just the vast amount of knowledge you have acquired. It is defined by the things you consciously choose to leave out.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's bring all of these concepts together into an action plan. For everyone listening, you now have a fundamentally different toolkit for attacking whatever project is sitting on your desk.
A much better toolkit.
Definitely. First, stop stressing about absolute originality. Instead, map out your creative genealogy. Find the thinkers and creators who inspire you and study them relentlessly.
Second, actively practice good theft. Do not just skim the surface of a single source. Devour hundreds of different sources, mash them together, and filter them through your own unique physical and mental limitations.
Remember that your failure to copy perfectly is exactly where you will discover your own voice.
Yep.
Third, combat imposter syndrome by setting the stage. Set up an analog space with paper and pens. Step away from the glowing rectangle when you need to generate raw ideas, and allow yourself to play the role of the creator before you feel like an expert.
And finally, impose strict limitations on yourself. Subtraction is your absolute best weapon against creative block. You don't need to know exactly who you are yet, you just need to start making things today.
That's the perfect takeaway.
And as you start making things, I actually want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, especially as we navigate our rapidly changing technological landscape.
Oh, let's hear it.
Well, we just established that the core of good theft relies heavily on the fact that human beings are physically and mentally incapable of making perfect copies, right?
Right.
Our unique artistic style and our evolution are born entirely from human error and physical limitation. So what does this mean for artificial intelligence?
Oh, that is a heavy question.
Right. When an AI model instantly generates a highly detailed image or writes a complex essay by perfectly scraping and synthesizing millions of sources without a single physical flaw, is it practicing the ultimate form of good theft because it is stealing from many? Or is it fundamentally bad theft because it entirely lacks that beautiful, error-prone, struggling human hand? Can a machine ever truly possess a voice if it is physically incapable of failing?
Wow. That completely shatters how I look at AI-generated content. It suggests that true art isn't just about what a creator can do. It is deeply tied to what a creator cannot fail to do.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Grab a pen, grab some paper, and go out there and steal something great.
Until next time, keep creating.